let's get started with the first session. And we're going to welcome in our first moderator, Jarod DeAnda, the force of Formula Drift, Mr. Send It. And hello, Jarod.
I'm Jarod DeAnda, most popularly known as the voice of Formula Drift. I've been announcing Formula Drift in 2020, going on 17 years. And to be quite honest, I'm usually the host of the party, from Grid Life to Gymkhana Grid to, Red Bull Drift Shifters. I've worked with many different companies over the years, from working with Rod at EA Games, currently work with Snap-on Tools, Harley Davidson. And yeah, we're under some interesting times, but it's all about adaptation, right? You're going to hear this word a lot about pivoting. Rod, and I really loved what you said about the times are already changing. You know, the technology already existed. It's how you utilize the tools that are there, and some are developing even more so. And I really love that, Rod. And thank you to Race Service for curating this. I know I've gotten a lot of DMs. A lot of people are watching right now. So here I am in my home bar. I've been using this thing a lot. and that's what it's all about, is engaging. My kids can't drink with me, and obviously I can't announce any event. Formula Drift as a series has pivoted. They're moving their 8 rounds of competition. They're sliding it over. You know, different events are sliding it over, if it's Grid Life or whatever. So this is all about remote engagement. And we have 4 different companies and very different companies or events that we're going to talk to about remote engagement. So I'm going to rattle them off for you, because they're again, there's some overlap with them as far as how they're engaging, what they're doing, how they're doing it. But some are tactile, some are about getting butts in seats, and some are about getting toys in hand. There's iconic brands here. So the 4 people we have here with us is actually one of the founders of Race Service and a great friend of mine, and as all these people are, Jacob Agajanian, representing Race Service. Next up, we'll have Art Cervantes, representing, again, a company that really needs people in their event, but they've done a great job adapting and saying, hey, we can do this together, we're in this together, because the tool already existed in that social media. So Art Cervantes represents Radwood, which is just a really cool event series that touches on nostalgia, not only from the vehicles, but also emotions, right? So you can see things on Instagram, and people make storyboards, either digitally or physically in their room, right? Everybody had a poster of their iconic car, the Lamborghini or Celine, or, you know, now it's, you get all these Ken Block, you get Ryan Turk, you get all these different people hanging on your wall. Next up is somebody who I know very dearly. It's my wife, Stephanie DeAnda. We met at the SEMA show over 20 years ago, and she's been working in the industry for about 20 years. So even more so than that, longer than I have even. And Stephanie DeAnda, and she currently works for McGuires and has for 15 plus years. So she's going to give us a position on a consumable item and a brand that is over 100 years old, and how they're adapting and engaging with their customers, either potential customers or existing customers, right? Because you have those loyalists, you have those raving fans for the particular brand. And last but not least, another iconic brand that's not just a toy. They have truly transcended just being this 1/64th scale model of tracks and cars and all that. Hot Wheels, an iconic brand that was really forging ahead. They created that Legends Tour where people got to submit their actual cars, and then they were going to be shrunk down. Honey, I Shrunk the Car. So Hot Wheels is just another brand that is, I think, you know, and excuse me, Danny Carnaje will be talking about Hot Wheels and how that large company that is Mattel and Hot Wheels as a brand is engaging. So again, it's all about the party, but it can be digitally, it can be brought together. So that's why it's all about remote engagement, how we engage with each other. And many different companies are engaging in different ways. If it's alcohol companies, if it's golf companies, you know, submitting videos, having competitions. So I really want to dive into that, and we'll kick things off with Jacob Agajanian, who is a founder of Race Service. So if Jacob is there, we could bring him up, and we can wrap out with Mr. Agajanian and see what Race Service is doing to really kind of, you know, stay relevant, let everybody know what's going on with this company. How we doing, Jake?
What's up, friends?
So Race Service is a company. You guys, I mean, you're an agency. You work, you know, most recently you were at the Formula One race in Barcelona. You were, you know, out there doing tactile things, showing the world what F1 is doing through your lens. Also, you're all about community. You're about, you know, inclusivity, right? Being part of the gang. That's why, you know, Rise and Shine Wednesdays with Minotti's Coffee at your physical space. But you guys have done a good job about continuing that conversation. What is Race Service doing to kind of, again, adapt, pivot?
Yeah, I mean, it's Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, race service is, sometimes hard to describe what we are, but we are an agency that works with some of the greatest brands in the world, and we, are purveyors of car culture, both appreciation for the past and the heritage of car culture, because a lot of us are true, petrol heads and all of that, but we're also very interested in what the future and the relationship with the automobile is going to be. Something that kind of came up as we were building this kind of new age agency is that, the community became such an important factor. I mean, we started to just have little events at our space because we wanted, to share what we were doing, and it really took off, and we were starting to hit kind of this, trajectory of tons of people coming every Wednesday to do a small curated car show and get industry people together. And now we, we're on pause, and we took it remote and kind of changed the format and had a really, great response to sort of making sure that we're keeping the community together. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned F1. We were very fortunate, and, it was kind of a dream project to go to preseason testing at Barcelona and create content with the marketing team of F1. We didn't know at the time, but it was literally the last bit of F1 content being filmed, and we actually were able to utilize that. We took these crazy times. I mean, F1 was dealing with their own kind of crisis of races getting postponed and trying to figure that out. We stayed in touch with the marketing team, and one of our tasks during that week was to create 20 driver interview edits. So we sat down with every driver for about 25 minutes and did a great little interview. That was cut down to a 90-second piece, which we released the week leading up to Australia before it was canceled, and they did well. And then everything went crazy. So what we did was adapt and work with them right away and say, hey, we have a ton of great footage. This is the only stuff that you guys have of these drivers in their 2020 kits. It's the only relevant stuff. Let's dive back in. So we created a few new edits. They're coming out on their social right now. They're fun. They kind of show the character of each of these guys. And that was really our goal, was to kind of humanize these heroes and show them for what they are. So, that's one client that we, even though they were in a major crisis and figuring out a lot more important stuff than cool content at the time, we were able to stay in touch with them and make sure that we were supporting them as a good agency would. And even though budgets are frozen, different, there's all kinds of stuff, but we knew that we didn't want to sit on, awesome content that was going to be obsolete in maybe a couple months. So we dove in and kind of, it's what everyone's doing in quarantine right now. You're looking at what you have in your cabinets, and you're throwing together some random meals. And so, yeah, so that's what we did. And then Danny, who's on our panel with Hot Wheels, they've been a brand that we are so honored to work with, because it is absolutely your first touch point with car culture. I remember logos on Hot Wheels cars that I played with when I was 3 years old. I remember a Pirelli logo. I didn't even know what it was, but it was on a Hot Wheels. So, to have the chance to work with a brand that gets this, kind of early touch point to the future car enthusiasts of the world, but then also that they've become this just massive force in car culture, that speaks to adults as much as kids. So, I'm going to let Danny talk about what they've done, but they have been one company that I have just a ton of respect for, because when this all went crazy, they did not slow down. They didn't hide. They didn't freeze. And I don't blame a lot of companies for freezing. I think that this is a time that you're like, I don't know what our sales are going to be. I don't know whatever. So this really isn't to point out that anybody else is frozen, because that's a natural response. But they did not stop for 1 second. We had launched the first of 19 stops of the Legends Tours, which travels around the country and brings a car culture and car enthusiasts together for car shows at Walmart parking lots. Well, we did the first one on March 5th, and that was the last trip before lockdown, and immediately started shifting to, okay, how do we keep this Legends audience engaged? What else are we going to do? You know, there's some interesting stuff in the works. And then immediately talking to us about what is social content that can be created in COVID times? What's a safe but still, interesting, engaging way to talk to all these people who are probably on their phones about 80% more than they were. I just checked my screen time. I think it is up 80% or something. So that's my quick spiel, but it's about helping brands continue, not get locked into this lockdown, but adapt and get ready to still create stuff. It's you don't want your brand to go dormant. That's one thing that I strongly believe in, and I've been telling any brand that we talk to is we are going to come out of this. We're going to come out of this stronger. We have a theory or a feeling of worldwide optimism. That is kind of what we've been going with. It's also on a Hot Wheels project that we've done with ornamental conifer painting a Camaro. It's called Worldwide Optimism that we released in October or November. It couldn't be more relevant right now. So that's our thought, but we love having everybody here. And thank you, Jarod, and thanks to these other awesome panelists for joining us.
Perfect. Yeah. And like you said, you're not going to shell up and kind of crawl into a ball. Everybody's kind of hibernating, right? So some bears are going to be hairier than others when they come out of hibernation, but you got to build, you got to be stronger. And you took the words out of my mouth. As an agency, you're dictated on other people's budgets, but there's those companies that are going to thrive and come out of this and not, again, curl into a ball. Let's jump right into it. Going on to our next guest, you can see his 1980s kind of esque shirt down there. Art Cervantes. Art, you're representing Radwood, which again, you're kind of dependent on butts and seats, getting people through the door, but you're all about emotion. So I love what you guys did because you actually have an event coming up here at the end of the month as well. Explain what Radwood is and how you guys are positioning your brand and your event.
Yeah, so Radwood is a celebration of 80s and 90s lifestyle, but as you already touched on, the cars are sort of a platform for that. They're the foundation, but we celebrate all culture, music, fashion, and everything that goes with that. And we are an in-person experiential event, right? It's all about being there, about hearing seeing and hearing these things happening in action. And given our, the current circumstances, we had to adapt. And so what's better than leveraging social media? We already are pretty active on there. Everyone's pretty engaged with us, both on from a content side of things where people are actually doing stuff with their cars, and also from just with whatever we're broadcasting, right? So we decided to put on a virtual show of Radwood, VRADWOOD, and the initial concept for the first show was really sort of an experiment. It's like, all right, make it super simple. People throw on a tag on a post and tag specific people, and then we'll select a certain amount of those cars, kind of curate them, nominate them, so then people can then go and vote on which cars would win in a specific category. So really leveraging that engagement and interaction with our community, and having them decide, who wins, a cool set of gear. And the response was huge. I mean, we actually had a great response from people globally. And from that, we've decided to really add other elements for the next event. And so we're going to leverage all the platforms, that are going to be spoken about later, which is, some live stream discussions, interviewing guests, influencers in the space, live talking about the stuff that we're seeing coming through social media, live DJ session. That's a big component of our events, is really having that, because you talk about nostalgia, and nothing's more nostalgic and more emotional than music. So we want to tie it all together with that. And so we can point someone to a specific, Twitch channel or YouTube or whatever, and then say, from for a certain amount of hours, we'll have stuff, someone spinning there. And, so we're adding more to the event. So really having a full day of activities where people can be interacting. Right now, more than ever, as Jacob was saying, people just want to be entertained. That's all we can do, right? So if there's an opportunity for that, we're gonna take it, and we'll figure out a way to keep people engaged and entertained via all the different channels and platforms that are available to us.
Yeah, I love it. And you talk about this part two. Again, if you don't know what Radwood is, you can check them out on Instagram, Radwood Official. But like you said, hashtag #VRadwood, May 30th. That engagement, because even, again, back to race service, they're doing the rise and shine virtually. People hanging out, listening to DJs. and your brand is all about that emotion. And you have some major companies here, Michelin, Haggerty, they're getting involved. And now even kind of with this, you're getting exposure, right? I mean, you're just partaking in this. I mean, this is important to have this dialogue and this conversation. As an agency, Race Service, they're sharing kind of their secrets, right? I can't wait to hear from Danny. And obviously, I've been hanging out with my wife quite a bit, Stephanie and McGuires. But, you know, what else is going through your mind as far as when you come out of this, come out of the cave, right? I talked about hibernation. What else are you guys doing to forge ahead?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And I think I've heard in the industry a lot of people say, you know, we don't want to necessarily build out this whole reinvent the wheel or reinvent our brand because of this, right? And focus on only the digital. But I think it's important to take the positive out of this and see how we can still interact with people. You know, when we're not at a physical event, right? We have usually a pretty busy schedule. We have an event a month, you know, all over the country and even internationally. Last year we had an event in the UK, and we wanted to expand to Australia this year, but you know, obviously that's not going to happen. But you know, it's really figuring out a way to leverage the social media and the live broadcasting platforms to be able to interact with our audience in between events. You know, so that's a big one. That's something, a key takeaway. I think that's very relevant. And then also, you know, there's, you know, I don't want to tap too much into the whole racing and sim and all that. There's a whole, you know, panel dedicated to that, but there's opportunities there, you know, talking about brands, you know, there's opportunities for us to partner and really focus on this particular era, right? The cars that are relevant to people, most relevant, I should say, to people in their 30s and 40s right now, and creating kind of experiences in the virtual and in the sim space as well. So I think more kind of, you know, as I just picture kind of an octopus, right? You kind of put your little tentacles in all these different places to create a big ecosystem where it's all feeding into itself and people are always interacting with your brand and what you're doing. Yeah, so that would be. I
think we have some examples of that as well. Like, I think you submitted some samples of what Radwood is and Radwood, like you said, virtual Radwood. So if you want to throw some images up there, our kind of man behind the screen here, it's like the man pulling the levers. And we have different images that we can show. But talking about, I'm just going to kind of flow here, just kind of stream of consciousness. Partners, they're critical. Like you said, Michelin, Haggerty, other people. You're constantly working, right? You're not crawling into a hole. Hot Wheels, perfect example here. I was going to bring him in here anyways and talk about, you know, companies. Danny, you represent Hot Wheels here, a massive company, you know, part of a big massive company, but again, has transcended just being a 1/64 scale, and now is just a large brand. And you guys have been doing some creative stuff as well.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. And again, you know, during this time, we've always been thinking about like what new things we can do rather than just having just like a little bit of a, you know, just a single like 1/64 scale car. And, you know, I think Jacob alluded to it when we were talking about how the Legends Tour, just like literally we just had one stop out of 19. And now we were just put into the situation where it's like, what do we do? How do we, you know, go about that, you know, go about it now during these times? And, you know, we're making strides to provide people with something, you know, something cool and something different and something digital. So I think there's much more in the can that we're working on, and excited to see that. And, you know, again, I think the key word to all of this is kind of like pivoting, right? Like whenever I think about what we had scheduled for this entire year, the Legends Tour was a big part of it. You know, 18 stops around the US, and now all of that is kind of just like flipped on its head, and we're trying to figure out what to do. So again, you know, with this being done and us in quarantine, we had to like really leverage what other things we can do. And I think one of the biggest things we could do, since people are at home and are engaged, is user-generated content, or UGC. And one thing that I really wanted to try, and
I'm playing some videos in the background, Danny, by the way.
Okay, cool. So as you can tell, and like in the background, there's some UGC taken from anyone from our audience that has kids, and, you know, they're bored and stuck at home. And what do? Like, we created this whole hashtag campaign called HW Hack the Track. So you literally take anything from your house, take all the track you have, and you put it all together and you create some sort of video. And, you know, we love to share and we love to see how, you know, how creative our audience can be, especially in times when they don't have a lot to work with and they can't, you know, do things, you know, what they would regularly do outside of their house. So this is just another really great example of what we've done. And then on top of that as well, a lot of our social media is really contingent on like an adult base, adult collector. And one of the groups that we worked with, the Lamley group, we, you know, worked in tandem with him to do something that's super turnkey, which was like, dude, show us your top 5 Hot Wheels, you know, and, you know, we let them take the wheel. You've seen this all across social media where it's like you show what you got, and then you tag 5 of your friends to do so. And, you know, the participation in this was really awesome. And it's like really interesting to see all the different types of people, you know, showcasing their collections and having a really, you know, robust collection of all the different Hot Wheels that you can have. So more on that to come. I'm totally into it. And like, would love to see anyone that's on this, like, show off your Hot Wheels. Cause
I feel like everybody's going in their garage right now and they're getting these emotions, right? Everybody's cleaning up. Oh, I didn't know I had this, right? So you're watching the Hot Wheels, you're getting the emotions from Radwood, you're cleaning your car. And again, all these people are here. There's so much overlap here. And this is just a great mind share. We had a discussion prior to this where it's like, hey, we all know the times. It's not supposed to be dismal. It's supposed to be adapt, pivot, move. What's the company doing? How you're creating. And again, just the emotions of, oh, dude, I remember this Hot Wheel. I got this one. I mean, and as a company, you guys are launching products. You know, there's a new Formula Drift Hot Wheels that drops at Walmart. People are trying to steer clear of that, but they're getting creative. Maybe they have somebody that works there. Maybe they can sanitize it, bring it in, right? And just the emotions. I'm looking at your guys. I'm looking at Hot Wheels in particular, looking at your Instagram, and again, launching Star Wars. You know, obviously May the 4th be with you, and Revenge of the 5th, and all that. I'm going to bring in Stephanie here. We're kind of just bouncing around because as a company, McGuires, again, this is my wife, so I kind of know a lot of what's going on, but McGuires is a consumable item. People have idle hands. They have their cars. They have their pride and joy. They have their full-size cars. So cleaning cars, it's a great opportunity to get that toothbrush out and really dive in deep on your car. So Stephanie, what is McGuires doing as a company to adapt to these times?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody. Hi, babe.
Hi.
So for McGuires, I think for us, we feel really fortunate that we're not necessarily pivoting so much as far as what we were doing and changing our digital media plan. For us, when we take a look at what we normally do on a regular basis with the car culture and visiting 300 plus car shows in some capacity during the year, how do we take that, what we would consider our sphere of influence, right? Our having that engagement with our customers, discussing the passion that they have behind building their car, detailing their car. How do we take that engagement that we would have had and take it and turn it into something digital? And so when we talk about the user engagement that Danny discussed, it's kind of taking the content that our enthusiasts are creating and kind of sharing it on a global platform for us, and sharing through our social media platforms something similar, a before and after, right? So now we're taking the pride that they're pulling their car out. Maybe they have been putting off waxing their cars or doing those details because they just didn't have the time. Now they have a little bit more time to pull it out, to take more time with it, maybe spend what would have been 30 minutes. Now they might spend 6 hours, right? And they've got the before and after. And so we're taking that opportunity to share the love with the enthusiasts out there. When we talk about the engagement, McGuires tries to pride ourselves on making sure that the engagement that we have with our influencers is authentic. And maybe that word is obviously played out, but genuine is really important to us. So the people that we work with are really true passion automotive enthusiasts. It's not so much about somebody that's just using a whole bunch of car wax and giving reviews, right? It's about who's really submerged in the culture and using those people to educate them on McGuires and put the product in their hands. Somebody like TJ Hunt, who we've spent a lot of time with developing our program. So much so that, there's a livery on his car which matches our new hybrid ceramic line. Creation of content like that really is driving awareness, but is something that he would have done, colors he likes, and kind of keeping content very relevant to what's happening today. We're Rod, you touched on participants, somebody like Jack Ultramotive, right, who might not have been a heavy McGuires user, but somebody who, through Forza and other avenues came into automotive, really got into his R8. We ended up hosting him at SEMA. So things like that we're taking the engagement, the content that we have created through these influencers, and now just amping it up, taking all that digital content and kind of putting it out more now. We really kind of found our sweet spot when it comes to digital media with Instagram and both YouTube. We really find we get the most engagement when we, post no more than probably 3 times a day and really heavy how-to videos. So we really have people coming to us as the experts on how to clay their car, how to wax it, how long should it last. So they normally would have asked us those questions in person at car shows, and now they're kind of coming to us as the industry leader and industry experts. And so we just want to make sure we have all that content created so they have an answer quickly. We are seeing that those sales captured both in e-commerce. So at McGuires, I'm the Amazon account manager. So we're seeing that captured both in e-commerce and then also at specialty stores like your auto retailers, Advance, AutoZone, O'Reilly, are really seeing people come in for a specific job that don't maybe want to go to a mass retailer right now. So we're seeing sales really pick up. And so those sales that we're trying to generate in person, we're taking people to the store, which, is helping. So.
Yeah, and people didn't know that, we found out early on that automotive stores, like you say, these boxes are essential business. So they're open and people are kind of dumbfounded. I know we needed a fuse, so we went to the store for our kids because they're playing. And speaking of kids, Hot Wheels, Radwood, your kid at heart, McGuires, education, information. You saw my son come in here. If your dog barks or your kids come online, people have a little bit of grace. I know both Stephanie and I have experienced this if I'm recording a podcast. And speaking of podcasts, I launched a podcast, right? Like I've been putting it off, and now I have that time. Our cars are still dirty because it's 105 degrees outside, and we don't want to burn our skin off. But kids are allowed. And McGuires has done something as well that I've seen a lot of. I have a stack of them. You guys have created some coloring pages, which I think is cool too, because as you say, just kind of engaging, this remote engagement. You already have your raving fans.
I'm going to show a couple samples here.
Yeah, please do, because not only are these coloring pages, but you talk about content creation. John Sabal, who's a partner, TJ Hunt, there you go. And even Gunther Works, which obviously is an amazing, Porsche tuner. And Rod, I know you love that, but Stephanie McGuire is creating these coloring pages as well.
Yeah, I wanted to just chime in. I mean, this has been awesome kind of hearing everybody's point of view. And these are all, all the panelists are people that I respect and are close with. But it kind of made me think, I mean, even McGuires, which is a 100-year-old company, but in the past year or two, and, I think it's thanks to some really clever people in your marketing department. I know RJ DeVera is over there, but you guys have been ramping up your influencer program and doing it in a meaningful way for a year, 2 years. And when this hit, you guys weren't caught off guard because you guys were already making a shift towards that. Same goes with Hot Wheels. Like, you were already making a shift to really engaging social content. I think who's getting affected are people who weren't on the new school of what's going on in car culture, and they're just totally caught out. Radwood, and kind of one reason why Art was together these panels is they were the first ones who did a car show after COVID times. Like, we all were talking about it. We're talking about it with Hot Wheels. We're talking about it with Rise and Shine, and they did it. And they came up with a way to keep their fans involved. So to me, I think this is a testament to these types of brands who are already headed the right way. I mean, I see this time as a major shift. I think dinosaurs are going to get kicked off the edge of the cliff. Unfortunately, they haven't adapted fast enough. I think the people who are making those adaptations because of the natural course of car culture are very well positioned to weather this storm, get through it, come out stronger on the other end, and kill it. And their brand is not going to lose any value during this time because they were ready to continue the conversation. And Stephanie brought up TJ Hunt, who's really impressing me with what he's doing with content. He's in our panel later on. But those people haven't stopped. The people who are creating content in their garages, the people who are doing that. So to me, as we can talk about all the negatives about COVID, which I don't want to because we all know the challenges, but it's the people who are being not scared to forge forward, and they're creating stuff, especially creating content around your cars in your garage, which is safe, which is going with the restrictions, all of that. So yeah, it's cool. But I really, that kind of just came to light during this talk, is that all of these brands and organizations were already kind of on the new school and the new tip. So it's great.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And RJ has done an exceptional job for McGuires in that aspect for sure. I think the challenge that we're seeing too is that now that there's so much content, that organic content is having a hard time surfacing. So being a very grounded company and a company that's been around for a long time, a financially successful company, that, unless you have money behind a lot of these paid, content, it's very hard to get your content to surface. And so I think part of the trick too is figuring out what content that you focus on and you get the paid placements for. But just creating content isn't enough anymore, and that's a challenge.
Yeah, and Stephanie, you say that, and there's questions coming in. Ben asks us, how long do you guys realistically think the hard push on digital, especially social, can last and keep people engaged? At some point, with everyone competing digitally within similar spaces, competitions, experiences, streams, just start to lose a bit of uniqueness. We've all been able to leverage the last few months, and that's exactly what you're talking about. So being relevant, also being transparent. When we had the pre-call, we talked about, late night talk shows, Colbert compared to Conan, two very different productions, as far as the quality of the video. Conan's a little grainier, his hair's getting big. Colbert looks pretty dialed, like, his quality there. And I think you touched on that. So, being socially responsible. Jacob, you talked about TJ Hunt. He's later on in a panel. He's a great friend of mine, but they're being socially responsible and they're forging ahead. Let's take a look at some of these questions here. I think this one's pretty interesting because it talks about racetracks, right? I mean, I know that Formula Drift, they're talking, you got to think about racetracks, how they operate, what's going on. Extreme Experience, they're a ride and drive experience. They have 50 track events planned in 2020. They'd have to reschedule thousands of supercar driving experiences. Here's how you think racetracks and driving experiences will fare later this year. That's an interesting one. Don't know which category it falls in. I don't think racing simulators, but you have to think about, you have these big open venues, right? So they have to get creative about being relevant, getting it out there. And I know we've kind of seen some of the numbers, if it's COTA or Road Atlanta, Englishtown Raceway Park. I know those are Formula Drift venues as well. That's going to get pretty interesting. I don't know, Rod, what are your thoughts on that? I'd like to ask you on how you think racetracks and driving experiences will fare later this year. Not so much on the engagement tip, but I guess overall.
Well, there are some track day companies that are continuing to run. You can go there and stay physically isolated and continue. So there are some tracks that will be able to continue along those lines. But in terms of events and people coming together to watch motorsports, that's a whole other question. It's unknown whether that will even happen this year in terms of crowds coming together.
Right on. And we'll bring him up because they're talking about Extreme Experience, and maybe we'll get, I should say, some of these people live on here. We're pivoting as we fly here as well, getting some messages here and there. Let's go back to Danny here and talk about Hot Wheels. What are some other angles for you as far as remote engagement? Are you planning ahead? You talk about Legends Tour. That was a really good push. People are thinking about SEMA right now. And Jake, I like what you said. Some of these dinosaurs are going to fall off. The cream is going to rise to the top, and it's really showing kind of all your weaknesses or your strength. But Danny and Hot Wheels more?
Yeah. Again, we have seen, giving you context of all of this, the Legends Tour was maybe half of our content for the year. So it's just it's insane how much we have to then go back to the drawing board and understand what we can do digitally, right? And I've been working with Rod and Jacob on some really cool things that are like upcoming, and I think that everyone's going to be really stoked about. But like, we're trying to set ourselves up to take this experience and see what we can do digitally, see what we can really like, you know, like go forward with these things. And I think, you know, the legend story is always going to live on, like regardless of what it is, like as in like an actual event or like just anything that you see remotely from a digital perspective. So again, like we push on and we continue to like go forward. And I think that's what's going to make us rise to the top, or anyone in that situation. Like Art and Radwood, you guys are doing something super cool that is just like, you know what, we can make this experience that we have as an event into this whole digital, you know, I guess it's, you can say it's a digital event, right? Like there's tons of people watching, there's tons of people that are engaging with you, and then, you know, let's keep going.
Are you needing to shift your relationship with the Hot Wheels fan and your touch points with them, or now that we're in this situation where you have to be engaging remotely all the time as you're looking into the future? How's that working for you?
I think so. I think in any sort of situation that like really just like latches itself onto you, you do have to really try to understand what your audience wants and what they need. So it's, again, like we're putting a bunch of stuff, like we're doing that hack the track thing that I was, you know, that was never part of my yearly content plan. And now it's starting to take off, and I'm seeing like it pay dividends. And it's bringing back another audience that we've always wanted to capture, right? Like it's like a parent that, you know, sees what Hot Wheels is doing, and it's like, okay, they're aging up, or, you know, they're trying to give us some sort of other opportunity for us to engage. So again, like, yeah, it's, you know, our audience is always going to try to shift, but it's always trying to get ourselves into the place where we want to be. And I think, you know, from a car culture perspective, I think that's what Hot Wheels has been trying to do for the last like 2 to 3 years that I've been here, you know, really pushing that envelope of, we're just a small little car, but we do have a lot of say in when it comes to like a small, like the automotive world. And I think anyone can relate to that.
Yeah, to jump in, you know, we've had just tons of talks. I mean, Danny and me and Rod are on Zooms almost every day. But you know, it's been cool to watch them shift. But before this all happened, I mean, we've been working and strategizing with Hot Wheels for a couple of years now, and we kept talking about closing the loop, closing the big orange loop. And that's when kids start losing interest in Hot Wheels when they're 13, 14, 15. And we wanted to recapture people during that time up to when they're about our age, and we're handing that first Hot Wheels to our new kids. So I just had 2 twin baby boys that have been keeping me pretty busy during quarantine, but I can't wait to hand them Hot Wheels, where they aren't going to shove them in their mouth right now. But it is about closing that loop. And during this quarantine time, some of the beautiful parts of it is how much more time parents are spending with their kids and helping them do hack the track and ordering on Amazon a ton of new Hot Wheels so that their kids are entertained. So, you know, to me, it's helped Hot Wheels like look at their audience in a different way and recapture people. And you know, so there is good. I keep, you know, we wanted this to be a, you know, kind of the positive take on COVID, and it's like a forest fire, and it does damage, but you know, things flourish afterwards and grow stronger. You could see that in Southern California, where there was forest fires last year. It's the greenest I've ever seen it, and it's amazing. And that's what I think is going to happen. And I feel that Hot Wheels has been a good representation of that sort of new recapturing audience.
I have a question for Art.
Yeah.
There was a lot of interest in the virtual Radwood event. I entered my car in it. Didn't
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
make it there, but
You got some votes. You got some votes.
yeah,
He's complaining because he didn't get a trophy. He's bummed.
So the thing is when you have a real life event, you're going around to different locations, you're pulling in vehicles from that pool, that localized area, to bring the Radwood feeling. When you're on the internet, you're on the internet, right? So you've done one event. So I'm curious what your future plans are to continue to engage with these virtual car shows, and how sustainable is that if you're always pulling from the same pool? Just maybe put the brochure in German And then
that's a
only human
fantastic
people-
question. No, that's a fantastic question. And so I think, tying into everything, we're all talking about adapting and staying relevant and being unique. Someone asked about standing out in this digital space when everyone's trying to do the same thing or capture the same eyeballs. And we're definitely thinking about that. And so the plan is to really create themed experiences, right? So it's not just every single Radwood era car, it's maybe Group B, maybe it's Group A, maybe we're talking motorsport here, maybe it's a lowrider one, maybe we focus on specific types of vehicles. And there's opportunities for the fashion side of things, to do stuff with apparel, with cool memorabilia. So it doesn't necessarily have to be don't get me wrong, we're known for being an extremely exclusive event. You can literally show up in your 1992 Toyota Camry and we have it 20 feet away from a Ferrari F50, and we create an experience around that. But it's just there are ways that we can make a different type of experience and make it entertaining for everyone, where we sort of curate the events, if you will. That's the plan, so that it isn't just everyone. And that being said, I think, at least for now, given the first event was, as I mentioned, sort of a litmus test to see if this would stick, and obviously the response was good. There's still hundreds of thousands of people that could contribute, considering the amount of people we had participate this time around. If we were to keep it open to everyone for at least a few more events, I think we're in good shape. But even in that, we're going to get creative and build out kind of mini experiences to allow for that uniqueness and creativity. And one last thing I wanted to mention, talking about being creative and given the circumstances, we talk about brands. Jarod's mentioning some of our partners here. These are all different kind of opportunities for interaction for different brands that partner with us. Because we had to basically reinvent our wheel, right? Like, we're all about activations and in-person interaction and all that. So we had to create all of these different spaces in this digital space for our partners to be able to interact and engage with an audience. And for us, it's all about integration. I want it to be cool and interesting and part of the show and part of the experience versus just branding. So there's a lot in the works for that. And also, Jacob mentioned dinosaurs, and it's like, yeah, there are a lot of old school folks out there, but as long as people are receptive, right now this is the perfect time to really adapt and reinvent that, right? Like that image that you're an old school gray hair kind of brand. This is a better, probably there's never been a better time, I should say, to really adapt and partner with agencies and different platforms, different events, that are already interacting with a certain demographic that you want to reach. So we're definitely being malleable.
Yeah, you have to be honest and humble with your brand and who your identity is, and comfortable with saying, I'm going to get somebody that knows that a little better, right? Because there's probably a lot of people that are getting hired right now in the tech space. And also another gift for you from an event standpoint is you can do an event all across the globe. Your physicality of having the event in LA, in Georgia, in wherever here in the States, because that's where you're based. But now you can truly bring it from all around the globe, and everybody's really engaged. So I think that's interesting. And also, I'm looking at other companies and what they're doing, or excuse me, other industries and what they're doing. Skateboarding, what is skateboarding doing? The beverage industry, right? Again, alcohol. My buddy, apartment bartender, he's making drinks, making recipes, sharing that, and that's sponsored by an alcohol company. Our friends work at a beer distributor. They're getting creative and changing laws so you can do pickup and do all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty interesting. I truly enjoy this. I can't wait to announce an event. But again, out of this, I built a podcast because everybody enjoys Roadrunners. It's all about traveling, experience, and all that kind of thing. But out of necessity, I need to build that, and it's given me an opportunity to engage with many different people. And it's, of course, I got to call it Beer with Jarod DeAnda. So check it out. Shameless plug. Rod, I think we were going to open the last 15 minutes up to questions.
Yes.
But, I think this is great. Again, thank you to Race Service for having me.
So we're going to do an experimental thing here and bring someone in and see if they're able to. So we have Kyle Bento. I thought your question was interesting. Let's see if you can turn your camera and sound on. We're going to invite you in and you can ask your question. Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, what's going on? My name's Kyle. I'm the director of marketing at FC Hero. We actually have the whole FC Hero team following along right now. Everyone's really enjoying this. We're chatting about it in the background. So thank you everyone for putting this together. My question was about user-generated content. I see so many brands try to do it, whether it's just asking people to include a hashtag on something or asking for them to leave a review. And some brands do it really well and it's really sticky and people get really excited about talking about that brand and sharing their experience and talking about what they're doing. What kind of differentiates when it works and when it just completely falls flat and people just kind of roll their eyes when they see it?
I'll take that. Hey, Kyle, thanks for the question. UGC, I think we're all in kind of the same situation, right? We always think about, let's use this hashtag strategy to make something go viral. And then it's all about level setting, right? We try to do things where we feel like maybe it's for a greater group. And I think I can give you an example for Hack the Track. I think when we took that strategy, had a hashtag in place, and then we started seeding out to some sort of some influencers from an earned perspective. May they be like people that we work with from like Race Service, or we do a lot of work with Alex Laughlin, who literally the next day he put all this track together and was like, hey, I saw your hashtag. I'm down to do this. Let me know what else I need to do. So, it's people are looking at what you're doing, and people want to get creative and want to be participatory when it comes to UGC. And I think what comes out of it is a reward, right? Like we would like to reward people with anything, maybe like some sort of surprise and delight, saying like, dude, thank you so much for participating in this. Here's more track, keep going, like share the wealth. And to us, I think this sounds a little funny, but like when we put someone on our channel, and me as a consumer, I would love to be on Hot Wheels, right? Like it just makes me feel like, oh man, like Hot Wheels is really looking at me, and like I can't believe that they've like focused in on me and doing this. So again, I think that's like how I've always envisioned it, and level setting in some sort of a way like gives an opportunity to really like have it flourish. So I think that's kind of how I've always seen user generated content.
Yeah. I think the Hack the Track is awesome. We actually have a couple boxes of track that just showed up at Race Service that we are going to go sanitize and set up pretty soon. So it's a really cool thing. And we've done at Race Service. So whoever does follow us on Instagram, race.service, will kind of see the different formats that we've been launching during these COVID times. And to be honest, the reason why we do those are to prototype them for the brands that we work with and test out different formats, and also just ways to engage with the audience. So, we launched a user-generated content campaign that we call Research, and it's every weekend. We start with a few awesome photos that we like, and we'll throw out a theme. It could be amazing liveries, and then we challenge the audience to hashtag and tag us and put up their own pictures. To me, it's just something that people are on their phones anyways. They're, everyone likes old cool photos of motorsports and car culture, and we just kind of came up with something to spur that. So we have people search, tag us, and it's become really popular. We get hundreds of people replying and posting stuff, and to us, that's a really great test that you might see pour into the Hot Wheels social stream eventually, or somebody else. But it's stuff that we like to test, and I guess above all, it always comes back to this is authenticity. I don't think that you can just like UGC yourself into having a good social page. It's having an audience. You're already talking to them. They feel like you're a real person, a real character, even if you're a billion-dollar brand like Mattel, but you feel like you're talking to somebody. I think that's really important with that UGC, is that it's very interactive.
I'd like to chime in here too for McGuires. When you talk about the user-generated content, for us, we're a very passion-heavy brand. And so when people have such a positive experience when they go out and they're working on their cars, they automatically want to share it with us when they're a heavy user or heavy loyalist. And so we don't typically have to work very hard to get user-generated content, but that's because it's in their blood. It's a passion brand. So it really just depends on the product that you're working with, who your fan base is. So for us, we really appreciate our enthusiasts that are out there just sharing with us all the time on a regular basis what they're loving to do and really who they're doing it with. You know, so much of our content is, you know, I was waxing my car with my dad, or this is the, you know, my 16-year-old finally got their first car, so I, you know, shared my favorite wax with them. And, you know, those kind of relationships that can be shared, not just about the car, but about the interaction with how the process went, has been really cool to see from our customers.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Okay, we've got time for one more question here. So thanks, Kyle. And we're going to go over to Taro, our friend Taro, I think, who we can bring in.
What up, Taro?
So we only just got 2 or 3 minutes here. There we go.
Yeah, remember there we go. We got a couple panels after this, so don't go anywhere. We're going until 1 o'clock, so your day is filled. I've got a sweet car, but there he is. Oh, cool background.
Hey guys.
What up?
I wasn't counting on being selected, so I had like toast in my mouth. Yeah, so I had a question for Stephanie, I guess. Since you're involved in e-commerce, I wanted to see you know, what kind of content has the highest conversion rates. Is it UGC or is it how-tos? Is it, you know,
Sure.
product review? Yeah, what kind of stuff works for you guys?
Yeah, so for us, it would definitely be how-to videos. We see the largest conversions to sales. So when you take a look at the Amazon content specifically, because most people are going to buy something, if they're not going to buy it on Amazon, we'll do the research on Amazon. So it's really important to make sure that we not only show the specs of the product and the how-tos, but the video content has made a huge difference. We've spent the last basically 1.5 years updating all the B+ content that you'll see above the fold, and then really diving into the videos and the how-to try and make sure that customers understand the ease of use, seeing it used, and that we have seen a pickup in conversion rates for sure.
Yeah, and as you said, I don't know if anybody heard that, Stephanie is Amazon account manager. So here's this big world of all these products. You really have to differentiate yourself and create this new product. You launched a new product, you know, at Barrett-Jackson, ceramic, this technology. And like you said, so it's almost this whole cycle of service, right? Product, education, information, user uses it, likes it or hates it, right? And then they keep perpetuating into the fandomonium or whatever. And Taro, you know, we know each other here in a physical, in real life. And Taro, you create content yourself. So I know that comes from not a selfish place, but knowledge. And that's what this is all about. So definitely,
yeah.
Obviously, yeah. So it's good.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, we have our own channel, but we have you know, a bunch of creators in our network. So
Sure.
it really helps to know, you know, what's working and what's not.
Yeah,
for you guys.
it's consistent messaging and not making it too complicated too. You know, the how-to is really to get the message across when it comes to something like claying a car, right? That might feel like it's a little intimidating, or doing headlight restoration where you got to get a drill out and put it on your car. It's really kind of taking the fear out of it and making it seem extremely simple by the time they take it out of the package and put it on the car to help convert those
And would you guys
people that might be on the fence.
Would you guys produce all of that yourself, or are you using, you know, your influencers and your, you know, your brand ambassadors, and how do you go about creating these?
Yeah, so majority of the content that we create is done internally at McGuires. We absolutely use our influencers in a more natural way that, you know, if we're launching a product, they might use it, but that's more organic than it is kind of to put out a how-to. We do some product seeding just to, you know, kind of get feedback from what's happening in the market. But really, ultimately, the messaging that we want to get out, we want it to be very consistent with method of use, where you can find it. So we pretty much control that messaging when it first goes out, and then kind of let the ball, you know, roll where it may. So
Nice.
Right on. Thank you, Taro. Appreciate it.
you.
Thank you, man. See you at a racetrack. This is going to wrap up our remote engagement panel here. Want to thank our guests, my lovely wife, Stephanie DeAnda. We're going to have lunch here in a moment. Jacob Agajanian, good luck with your twins. We see them, Noah and Carrie, and Megan. Danny, thank you so much, representing Hot Wheels. And Hot Wheels is an iconic brand. And of course, Art from Radwood. And we'll see you online, or we'll see you another time as my tagline. Hashtag #BeRadwood is going down. So Thank you guys and gals. And Rod Chong, I'm gonna pass it over to you because our next panel here, curated and moderated by Jen Horsey. But thank you guys and gals, and keep this remote engagement going. Send it.
Thanks, everybody.
Later.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
That was fantastic.